Yes, we are here again. Common Europe 2025 from Gothenburg. And next to me, Gothenburg. And next to me, Niels Liisberg.
Hello, my friend.
A
Good
rock
to see you again.
star from
Absolutely.
the IBMI, champion, and
Again, 7 years.
7 years. And you have been speaking here, yeah?
I talk a lot. I don't know if I'm
You
in the
talk
session.
a lot. Yeah. You talk a lot. Was it okay for you?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah?
It was fun.
It's like almost a home game for you, yeah?
No, I was totally nervous this morning because everything broke down, and because I was moving to another petition and where my test is running.
Oh.
You know, I do everything live.
Yes.
And I was praying to all the IT gods and the VPN gods and all of the above,
But
and it was so
Niels,
cool.
you have to pray to Thor here, right?
Yeah.
And Wodan, and not to the IT gods. That was a
exactly.
mistake.
Yeah,
But-
Thor is the guy. Yeah.
Yeah. But did it work out?
Absolutely. I think the people was, wow, that is cool actually. So it was a talk about microservices, serverless architecture, and we also have a workshop on NOXDB stuff, doing crazy stuff with that. And also have a session about SQL and steroids. Scott Forty say, you cannot say steroids because people we don't like. But I mean, it's a buff guy.
Yeah. What did he say on Red Bull, or on coffee?
Yeah.
SQL and coffee.
Yeah, SQL and coffee, and that's perhaps that's on chocolate or vanilla. That could be nice.
Yeah, exactly.
SQL and vanilla. That was new.
So last time we talked about NOXDB.
Absolutely.
And also a little bit about ILEASTIC.
Yep.
And there's a funny story about how these products came to be, because those are open source.
Absolutely. Let me just elaborate on that, because like 15 years ago, a good friend of mine, John Parrish.
Yep.
Perhaps you know him.
Of course.
He is one of the legends. And he asked me, could you please make IceBreak as an open source package? And unfortunately, we have made some NDA with IBM, so we cannot use all the APIs we're using in IceBreak and make open source out of it. Anyways, so we had another idea. Why didn't we just carve all the valuable components out of it? So we took the JSON, SQL stuff and created NOXDB out of it. And we take the HTTP part of it and create ILEASTIC. And then we have all the session management stuff in IceBreak, and that cannot be part of the open source package.
Right.
It is as it is, and it has been there for 20 years now.
So is it also the case that when you have IceBreak, you consume NOXDB and ILEASTIC, or are there still separate packages that evolve?
It is actually when we are creating IceBreak, we are cloning in the ILEASTIC and NOXDB, and we are building everything together in our DevOps, so we have a tested environment. So when we are delivering the IceBreak package, it's actually with the open source, but we test it, and therefore we have a stable application
that
server
is a
running.
supported version of the open, but it is actually the same source code.
Yeah, the same source code doing all the NOXDB, and the funny part is that all the bits and bolts that is doing all the magic in IceBreak is actually NOXDB. So the way that you consume JSON, XML, forms, and so on into a graph and giving you this information to your application, so you don't have the knowledge about the graph. You have simple APIs.
Yeah.
You simply run from the ILE universe, and then when you have the graph, you just file that away, and IceBreak using NOXDB is serializing all this information back to the client. So IceBreak is actually one of the key components is NOXDB. And I think it's one of the more brilliant things, because it both have the JSON in, JSON out, and it can also call dynamically to programs with PCML and all this stuff. So it is quite powerful. But there's a funny story about the name IceBreak.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, so IceBreak is, I wouldn't associate that with an application server.
Yeah, now you will. But the story is in our company we had some Microsoft developer guys, and we have some dinosaurs. Could I put it that way? Is it okay?
Fine.
And some green screen guys, and we have to do something about our monetization of our own product. So between Christmas and New Year's Eve, for like 20 years ago, I took one other project, clearing system we were making for a bank, and because it has a pool, it has load balancing, all this stuff, and then I said, perhaps we could just add a HTTP interface on top of that, and then we could do some magic because I was very inspired by the Internet Information Server at that time. Because you can, in Internet Information Server, you can plug in DCOM objects and COM objects, and so that is brilliant. So Microsoft have done a very good job. So
DCOM objects is like the counterpart we have is like
ILE, basically.
Exactly.
So
service
you
programs and modules.
Modules, and the point is that you can create these COM objects in any language on Microsoft. So it's very similar to the way that you work with ILE, the integrated language environment.
Yes.
So I thought, wait a minute. If we could have an application server where we can actually plug in directly in the HTTP stack our ILE without the mumbo-jumbo HTTP stuff around it, but just harvest the request and do the response, and then we are have a very solid foundation. So I made this little HTTP on top of it, and I showed it to my boss. I said, now we can start our modernization process. And he said, hey, stop, wait a minute. We have been looking for so many years for this particular product, so perhaps we should not start modernizing our own solution, but finalize it at product and see if we can sell it.
Yes.
And that took off. That was really interesting. And then come back to the name.
Yeah,
because
the name.
We wanted to break the ice between the Microsoft development team in our company and the dinosaurs.
Yes.
So there was
and the smart guys.
Yeah, the smart guys. There where the money is. Yeah. The young, smoking weed guys and the guys that knows what we are actually doing.
Exactly.
So it became quite popular in our own company. Young people were working with this. At that time, it was ASP.NET, but we invented a pre-compiler in IceBreak, so you can also run ASP kind of code.
Oh, yeah.
We still have it; it's used, but that it was back in build 16. We are in build 787 or something.
Okay.
So it's version 787 something, and it's still common new stuff in it.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So one of the things that you use inside IceBreak is our real RPG. So you go directly to the metal, so to say.
Yes.
And you use threading.
Yes. With a twist. When we carved out ILEASTIC, we took the HTTP server and said, okay, we can just call our ILE code from there. And then I say, okay, wait a minute, because all this code is actually written in C with threading and all semaphores and all the stuff.
Yeah.
Very down to the hardware.
A semaphore is like a lock, right?
Yeah, it's a kind of lock, so you can release your thread later on and so on. And RPG is perhaps not the most famous language for doing threading.
No,
no.
Absolutely.
So when we made ILEASTIC, they had this little caveat that you actually need to compile your code as multi-threaded and multi-entrant application. And that is a little hard for somebody, but if they learn it and they know it, what they're doing is super, super fast. It's
okay, so what happens when I call, what happens? So I have a multi-threaded RPG program.
Yeah.
So it's in the same job?
It is, crazy. But think about it, you have, in a classical application, you have one pointer into your code, the program counter.
Yes.
And it's just running around doing all your mathematics and doing IOs and everything is good. But basically, if you think about that model, in a job, doing kind of another job, but it's running in the same job, you spin up another thread, having yet another program pointer running around. Now I have two fingers. Can you see them?
Yeah,
Crazy.
I can see them. Yeah.
I cannot. but the pointer is going up and down and being separate places and connected to several different clients at the same time.
But it is the same program?
It's the same program, but different connections.
Stack pointers or
stick pointers, separate memory.
Separate memory as well. Okay.
And you can share memory, but when you're creating reentrant application, you cannot have global variables. You can not have global files. You have to put them in your procedures.
You cannot have them, or they are not safe?
That depends. You can actually, if you have information like our IP address.
Yes.
Everybody can look to that global variable and say, okay, that is our IP address, so that's fine. But if you have, let's say, account number, everybody can, and that's a problem here.
Okay. So those are shared between the threads.
Yes. So we have shared memory between the threads. But we also have thread-safe memory within these applications. But that is only when we're talking by Elastic. because we know that this is a huge learning curve, and it's not easy to migrate applications into this world. To make a non-threaded application threaded is not easy.
No.
So instead of that, in IceBreak we have an application pool where you have one job with one single thread, and then we spin out these processes in a round-robin way to pick up the request, do some magic, and respond back on a user queue.
And that is okay. So that's like Node.
Yeah, it's a little bit like Node.js when you think about it, because they had a queue where you stack your request and you have asynchronous function calls.
Yeah,
it's worked the same way, where you have a stack, so we put it on a user queue instead, fire that away, and then one of the processes say, okay, I take that one and pop it off the stack.
So you have then 5 jobs running?
Yeah. In the big banks, we have like 100 jobs.
Ah, okay. That's why you get your speed.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also where it actually performs very well, because the HTTP server in IceBreak is also multi-processed in that way. So it spins up to 250 threads. And then the problem is that the TCP stack actually performs not that well with more threads. So therefore, yet another process with 250, yet another process with 250 threads and connections to the client. So if you have 1,000 clients, what is that? That will be 5 times 250, right?
Yeah, it's 5 jobs.
Four times, four jobs for that. Yeah. And so in the big banks and the insurance company, we see like perhaps 10 of these HTTP talking with clients, but the performance overhead is actually not that hard. It takes a little memory, yes, of course, but if you compare with the CPU, it's actually not that hard.
Right.
And then these processes spin off a request to the server pool where it actually runs the application that is pretty much old application. You can even have LDA. Do you know what LDA are?
Yeah, local data area.
Wow.
I'm a dinosaur.
I didn't know you the word there. My father was telling me about it. No.
Exactly.
Fantastic. So.
And what is the difference between a CGI job in, for example, Apache?
Apache can also do multi-processing, but it spins up several processes and then will have a little round robin. But here we have this queue mechanism instead of it. Yeah. And basically in CGI you will have one entry of one job doing everything. And here we actually have the possibility to spin up a separate job for a separate session. That means you can use your LDA because you have one job for your client. So many clients have many jobs, and one client can have many connections, but that will be serialized into the same job, like the pearls on the chain, right? Okay. So therefore you have one separate job, and you can actually debug that. That's the beauty of it. So John is logging on. Oh, hey, I got a session. Fantastic. And it will spin up like 5250, a job where you can actually debug that guy. Yeah. And that is not threaded in any way. So that is similar to any other application you know on the platform. So that's quite cool, actually. Yeah. So debugging easy. You can actually see in the development mode, you can see the job that is actually handling your request. And it is also have the power, so you, because it's stated that way, we can also spin up like our virtual 5250 terminal in that. Having what we call ice cap, so we have a 5250 session on top of that if you want to. So, and that
of course, who doesn't want that?
Yeah, for modernization purposes, it's fantastic. You can actually say, okay, I haven't modernized this part of the code, so therefore I just spin up a 5250 right here, perfect. Exactly. And then you have the green screen running, and then you can just look into the data stream and convert that. So we have this 5250 as a service built into the system. This is crazy. I mean, who thought about that? I didn't. I mean, a little.
Of course, because you build it. Hey, it's getting a little bit noisy here, and I know you have to go somewhere.
Yeah, the party starts, and we need to take some pictures of all the
rock stars.
Of the rock stars, the champions. So
okay.
It was a real pleasure to talk to you again.
Absolutely.
Let's do this again.
Yes. Next time.
Yeah.
Okay,
thanks.
Niels. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye now.